All right, the Commission on Equitable Housing and Development meeting is now commenced. It is August 1st at 4 p.m. This meeting is a virtual meeting. We ask that you mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone, and that you only use the chat function to request to speak. Also, to comply with the state open meeting law, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio. Okay, so we'll do roll call here real quick. Maggie Amato Tejas. Out. Oh, Maggie's in the waiting room. Wendy Asher. Looks like Wendy's out. Marianne Bierling is out. Mindy Bernstein. Mindy's out. Mark Clark. I think everybody else is here actually. So Mark is out. Vicky Casino. Do we have quorum? Do we lose somebody?
I am here, Maggie. This is Maggie.
Okay, we barely have quorum right now. Serena, if I don't want to mess up your last name, Harak, is that right?
Waraki.
Haraki?
Yeah, close enough. I'm here.
That's Serena. Lori Miserbo,
Present.
Tisha Tallman,
Here.
Jim Toffel, I am here. Ray Winch is out, and Kenny Wong.
Present.
All right, so we barely have quorum. Real quick before we get in, I'd just like to introduce everybody to Serena. Serena is a new commissioner. She is our youth representative. So Serena, do you want to just say hi to everybody and kind of tell us what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be serving on the commission. I'm currently going to the U of A. I'm entering my 4th year studying architecture, and I'm interning at Poster Myrtle McDonald with some awesome architects over there.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Okay, so our ex officio members, Ann Chinenka. Looks like Ann's out. Is Ann going to be joining us? No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Anna's out today.
All right, Corin Manning,
Present.
Betty Villegas is out. Marcos Ismail. Dan, do you know if Marcos is going to join us today?
I'm not quite sure. We have some other staffers from Pima County. Sophia Blue and Cassie Lundeen are here.
I'll add
Okay.
them in. And Jim, Marianne Bierling has come into the meeting.
Okay, okay, good. Marianne's here. And then last but not least, Mike Edmonds.
I am present.
All right. So, actually 7 is quorum. So we are barely at quorum right now. So you got Maggie, Marianne, Vicky, Serena. I thought Mark was going to be here today too. I know Vicky's out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Wendy just joined the attendees.
6, 7. Oh,
She
good.
should be
Wendy's here.
joining.
All right. Okay, so good. We got one extra spot here. All right. Okay, first agenda item is to review and approve the June meeting minutes that are posted on our website. I looked through them. The only I thought Ray was at the last meeting. Ray Winch, was she there or did she miss our last meeting? Did it? Does anybody remember?
Ray was not at the last meeting, I believe. Our last meeting is where we actually adopted the final goals. So that was the June meeting,
Yeah,
and
she
Ray was
wasn't
not at that
there.
one.
Okay, all right. My notes are off. Okay, does anybody else see any changes then to the meeting minutes from June? All right, then without objection, the June minutes are approved. All right, so for today, we're gonna start with, hang on, I'm not sure I got the right agenda here. Discussion of the detailed agenda.
Yep. So Jim, I just wanted to take a minute
Okay, I
to
don't remember this agenda item. Go ahead.
yeah, and we had sort of talked about there are a few kind of informational items in the agenda packet, and so wanted to also explain kind of this new format that we've been trying for a few months, and just open it up for feedback and thoughts. So we've been doing kind of a basic agenda posted to the CEHD website and a detailed agenda packet sent out to commission members. So you guys should have that in your email. I think it was from Neto at Rachel might be able to tell me when it was actually sent out, but as an attachment in one PDF packet, and it has a what we're calling kind of a detailed agenda with a little bit more context for each item. And trying to incorporate kind of all of the materials for commission members to review in that one combined PDF. This is something that our friends at Southwest Decision Resources have done in another commission. So let me know if you don't have that packet, but it has the minutes from the previous meeting, as well as kind of any informational sharing items that we're able to include. And so for today, things that we didn't have as agenda items, but wanted to make sure folks were aware of. And Jim, feel free to add commentary here, but the annual report that went out to mayor and council from CEHD, as well as the kind of final adopted goals that were adopted at our last June meeting. And then I think other attachments include the minutes. So any questions, comments, any commentary you would want to add, Jim?
It was so the email was sent out on Tuesday. Does anybody not have the email? Yeah, Marianne?
I like this. So it gives me everything I need to, read and refer to. So I'm really happy to have it done this way.
Mike?
Yeah, I was just, you asked the question, did anybody have it? I think I might need the packet. I was just about to send a message to Allison.
I can send it to you, Mike. If anybody else needs it too, happy to forward that email from Ernesto.
Okay, yeah, no, this is good. I like this format a lot better as well.
And so on the other, I think now is I think the CHD recommendations on the 2025 QAP and the proposed and current development impact fees is something that could also be discussed under the subcommittee updates. Just FYI.
Yep. I think that's the plan.
I
Okay.
just wanted to put it out there so that everyone sort of knows, look for that packet, that PDF packet. We'll always try to get it out sooner rather than later, but often it's kind of the week of the meeting. But yeah, look for the packet and we'll be emailing that to everybody.
Okay, so we've got basically 4 agenda items today. We'll do the call to the audience. We're going to be talking to Dan Sullivan from Pima County about what the Pima County Affordable Housing Commission is doing. We're going to get a P-CHIP update and then HCD updates, excuse me. And then we'll finish up with the committee reports. Okay, so the next agenda item is the call to the audience. This call to the audience is limited to 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 10 minutes. All speakers must share their name to be recorded in the meeting minutes. Remember, call to the audience may not result in discussion with the members of CEHD. No legal action may take place during the call to the audience, and speakers may not be disruptive. CEHD members may only respond to criticism and requests that can be placed on a future agenda item for discussion. And members of the audience may still participate on agenda items as per the bylaws of CEHD. So is there anybody who would like to speak?
Hi, how long has it been?
About 20 seconds.
Of July?
Hey, Marianne, you're not on mute. Okay, so hearing nobody that wants to speak, we're going to move on to presentation from Dan Sullivan. So Dan, welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you all for having me. I'm going to try and do a share screen, and I am terrible with technology, so please forgive me if I mess this up. You all see a PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right. All right. So, do the transitions here. Hold on 1 second. Slideshow. All right. Well, again, thank you all for having me here to talk about the Pima Regional Affordable Housing Commission. You know, we do a lot of work with HCD. You know, the city and county. You know, we're very lucky to live in this community where we work well together. There are members from staff who are on city staff who are on the commission. We share members. So, you know, again, very happy to be here to see how we can work better and align goals and make this place more affordable for residents. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of history of how our commission got established, which and this surprised me because it felt like 10 years ago, but in 2022, so during the pandemic, Pima County Administrator Jen Lesher established a working group, a task force to evaluate affordable housing. The existing commission that was in place, but you know, hadn't really met in a long time. Some folks, I believe, who are on this call were also on that task force. So thank you to those who were on the task force. And the task force came up with a number of recommendations that were transmitted to the Board of Supervisors. Most importantly being the creation of the Regional Affordable Housing Commission. And I'll put a slide up later that has the membership, but it's was intended not, you know, to be one jurisdiction, you know, just Pima County residents, but really a broad spectrum of experts in affordable housing, key stakeholders, people from government, to come up with solutions, you know, a broad range of solutions to address the affordable housing crisis that we are facing. So, and also, so that was the big recommendation. There were some sub recommendations that were passed on to the board that the commission is working on right now, which is increase the housing supply, keep people housed, and develop strategies for a sustainable housing fund. So we've made progress. We've been meeting again since, oh, typo there. We've been meeting since the future. Sorry about that. But again, the mission, I won't read it, but it's clear. We're the Regional Affordable Housing Commission is there to provide tangible recommendations to the board on funding strategies, anything on a broad continuum of strategies to alleviate the crisis again that we're facing, everything from homelessness to market housing. So there's been a lot done over the last couple of years, but I wanted to show our membership. A lot of folks that again, we have Mark Clark is on our commission. Also on this commission, we have folks from the city of Tucson, again, who sit on it. So, it's intended to be not like other commissions where it's district based. It was experience based. So it was based I believe each board district had 2 appointees, and that we have a new ex officio, Jennifer Darland, if you know her, who is the new director of the Office of Housing Opportunities and Homeless Solutions. So we've been meeting pretty regularly up on the north side, and have recently moved to hybrid model of in-person and virtual over here at the Keno One Stop, which has been good. We might move it around, but again, it's expertise based, and we wanted to make that broad of developers, people engaged in homelessness, people with academic understanding, was really the impetus behind it. So since inception, here's some of the stuff that we've been up to. So the first one, and actually came from the chair of the board, supervisor and chair Adelita Grijalva, set aside $5 million in general fund in budget year 22 for the Affordable Housing Commission to decide strategies and be innovative and work to build more affordable housing. Since then, that's grown to including this year's allocation that was passed and will be in the final budget recommendation. So since 2022, the board has invested $15 million, again, in general fund. Mostly so far it has been going towards gap funding. So seeking proposals where there is most of the funds are there to just get projects over the finish line, and also to have a larger return on investment, right? So where we invested $10 million, either completed or in the contracting process, have contributed towards the creation of about more than 1,000 units of affordable housing. And the stipulation of our gap funding, again, is a 30-year affordability period, and targeted to those who are 8% AMI. The other thing that we're doing is giving out county land. Excuse me. Let me draw that back a lot, actually. Not giving out county land. So the county put out a request for proposals or requests for qualifications for developers to be added to a list, and then subsequently parcels, either unused parcels, surplus parcels, may be offered to developers for them to then build affordable housing that will come, obviously with the same affordability period. But, we're in the phase of just came up with approved the list of approved vendors, and from that list of approved vendors, Real Property, the department that controls the county's land, can put out other requests for proposals to donate, transfer, land again for affordability. And the big thing, too, that we're really excited about is we've procured a market analysis and a vendor to put up a dashboard or a charrette to really ensure that this is a data-driven approach. $15 million is a lot. When it comes to housing affordability, I think we all know that it's not going to solve the total problem, obviously, right? We have other funds that go toward housing affordability, home, you name the HUD alphabet soup, right? So really the study, we hope, is going to be something that is simple, that we can understand and track, which is how many units of what type do we need to build to make Pima County an affordable community, all the way from, again, low barrier shelter to market housing. And I'm sure that when that report comes out, and it's going to be it's going to be a very intense study, but we'll be getting data pieces as they're doing it. I'm sure there's going to be a sticker shock of I don't know, at least 15, 20,000. We can all do a pool on what the recommendation is going to be. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all government funded housing, right? I mean, there are other policies to consider to spur on the development of private market rate housing, which is also, why we've considered the folks who are on our panel. And then as we make progress towards our ultimate goal, again, we're going to have a charrette and a dashboard that shows us, how we're doing, how we're doing towards our goal of, we need this many affordable housing units. How many have we built so that it is transparent to the public, and we're also aware. At our last meeting, we also put together a work group called from the Community Workforce Development Department. So it's not necessarily a work group of the commission, but its task is to come up with long-term strategies for affordable housing. So, we have been doing a lot of work. We put out more than $10 million in contracts that have been executed or about to be executed. But what does a long-term strategy look like? And the folks, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. Mark Clark, again, somebody on this commission. Megan Headings from Fair Housing Resources, I believe I got that right. Sarah Megason from the Gold City of Tucson. Tom Litwicki from OPCS, and David Gedlewski, who is the president or CEO of the Southern Arizona Home Builders. And again, the goal is to come up with the long-term sustainable housing plan that can be adaptable, right? That it's not just one plan that gets put on the wall and we forget about it. A pet peeve I have is planning just for planning's sake, right? You know, this is intended to be a living plan and a living strategic document. We have data now. We're going to have richer data as our market study comes through. So, you know, again, this work group has a pretty big task ahead of it to come up with you know, strategies, diverse strategies, and help us make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for investment in affordable housing, and then also to identify the other low-hanging fruit, right? If others feel that you know, I mentioned it earlier that there are so many sources of funding in any community and in Pima County that are all not on the same page, right? You know, so again, you know, home has its own priorities. There will be the consolidated plan. TPCH, you know, does its own planning. You know, it seems like a lofty goal, but to facilitate something that could bring those plans together into one community-wide comprehensive study and plan that includes everything. Again, on the spectrum, complete continuum of housing needs to really move the needle. And you know, it's not just studying and saying what we need. It's, you know, what federal funding can we rearrange? You know, it also links into, if you all are familiar with our prosperity initiative, which makes, you know, housing a priority of Pima County. And then also what to do with the annual what has been again $5 million annual investment into affordable housing. What to do with this year's allocations, then make a recommendation to the commission and then to the board. And the thing that I have zero experience with is, you know, recommend zoning policies to encourage market rate housing. So a lot and on a very ambitious timeline for the first phase. And again, this is intended to be a continuous group updating a strategy with the tools that we have available to us. You know, I could win the lottery and I'll donate a substantial portion. You know, what bucket is that going to go into? You know, so we're going to be meeting over the coming months. You know, again, that initial strategic plans are going to go to the commission for vetting, and then with the ultimate transmission to the Board of Supervisors in September. So wish us luck. I think we can do it. I'm ambitious. We're going to have some pretty heavy meetings, but you know, we're very lucky, as you all are here, to have some very passionate and invested volunteers who have stepped up to invest their time to make sure that Tucson and Pima County is a affordable, livable, better place. So that's really it in a nutshell. You know, the other thing too is the group of the working group is also to evaluate, you know, make recommendations or see, you know, how we can have a joint regional meeting and a city meeting. You know, is that the whole group both coming together, or is it, our subgroup and another subgroup? Again, that is a question still to be answered, but that's us in a nutshell. And again, happy to, if appropriate, answer any questions that folks may have.
Thank you, Dan. So I have a couple thoughts, but I'm going to open it up to the group first. So does anybody have a comment or question?
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That work? My screen go away?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Technology works.
All right, well, if nobody has anything, so there's a couple things I'd like to say. So first of all, Dan, I really appreciate the presentation. I think there's a lot of synergies between what you guys are doing and what we're trying to accomplish here. I will tell you that the $5 million per year that the county has been putting into the Affordable Housing Fund, I don't know if you're calling it a housing trust fund or what you're calling it, but it has made a big difference on projects. I know several projects which have used those funds, and it really, these projects are so tough to make work, and things like that really can make a big difference in terms of getting deals across the finish line. And as we look forward, I hope that the county is able to continue to do that, because I think things are going to get tougher here these next few years. The state is dealing with some pretty significant budget issues. The city is dealing with some significant budget issues. And, and we're in an election year. So depending on how the election goes, that could have a pretty significant impact on specifically on the tax credit program moving forward. So, I think it's great that you guys are doing all of that. Are you pretty familiar with the HAST plan?
I'm familiar with it. I would probably fail a pop quiz on it.
Okay, so the HAST plan it's a housing strategy plan for the city of Tucson that was put together several years ago. And there were kind of 10 sets of recommendations in the HAST plan that was put forward. As a commission, we reviewed that and other things, and came up with 4 sets of recommendations to mayor and council on things that could be done to increase the supply of affordable housing projects. In a nutshell, those recommendations were to create a fast track review process for plans going through development services. It was to reinstate the housing trust fund for the city. And we recommended $2 million a year initially to be put into that. The third recommendation was to take a look at the zoning codes in terms of what can be done to make more sites available for affordable housing projects, increase density, which would be done by reducing setbacks, increasing building heights, reducing parking requirements, things like that. And then the fourth recommendation was to analyze putting a affordable housing bond measure on the ballot. So the city is moving forward with the first 3. Development Services is creating a fast track process for affordable housing projects. They're looking at the zoning codes now. They're going to have a draft of that ready probably in the next 30 to 45 days. They've been using home funds for helping fund projects and fill some of the gap financing as well. And so we've been doing something similar to the county, where we review applications and we've been giving projects $500,000 each. That helps actually on the 9% tax credit projects. That helps maximize the points there. But it's really the last item that is kind of driving the desire to meet with you and specifically, and that's the bond measure. And when we presented that, the feedback from mayor and council was to talk to the county and figure out if we can work with the county to do a countywide bond measure. And the way that that was presented to mayor and council was that Flagstaff recently passed an affordable housing bond initiative. It was about 2 years ago now. They raised $25 million for the city of Flagstaff for affordable housing. Phoenix last year, and I haven't gotten an update on it recently, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But Phoenix put an affordable housing bond measure kind of in the works, and they were trying to figure that out. And so, at the end of the day, these affordable housing projects don't cash flow a lot of money. And so it's really just about figuring out ways to fund them. And the primary funding source is the 4% and the 9% tax credits. In general, projects in Pima County are much more difficult to make work than projects in Maricopa County. And that's because our area median incomes are about an average of $10,000 per family lower in Pima County than they are in Maricopa County. And our costs are higher. It's construction costs specifically are about 5% higher. And so that really makes it difficult to attract developers to come down to Pima County to do development. And if we know that Flagstaff, we know that Maricopa County or Phoenix in particular are looking at these bond measures, if we want to keep pace with these other areas, we really need to try to do something similar. And so we've been talking about this in the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, and we're willing to use that subcommittee to work with the, maybe it's this group of 5 individuals. So Megan Headings is actually an ex officio member on our Affordable Housing Subcommittee as well.
Awesome.
But if there's a potential for you guys to work with us in terms of figuring out if a bond measure is something that we can try to get on the ballot, probably. I don't know if we can do it in 25. It might be 2026 at this point. It's going to be a little ways out. But that is something that if we could accomplish that, would potentially raise a significant amount of money for affordable housing, and it could make all the difference in terms of getting people to want to come down to Southern Arizona to do affordable housing projects. I work across the state. I do affordable housing everywhere. And, right now in Casa Grande, I'm aware of about 800 affordable housing units getting built right now. In Pima County, I think total under construction, there's probably 400, maybe three or 400, something like that.
That's it.
Well, I mean, I know Dominion's got a big project going up in Marana.
Oh, I thought you said Maricopa County. Excuse me.
Pima County. I'm sorry, in Pima County. That's the only, I guess, big 4% project that I'm aware of right now. I know that there was some stuff done a few years ago, but and then everything else is 9%, which is the really low income. And Tucson's done very well in terms of the 9% projects and in terms of getting more down here. We've had a lot of success the last 3 or 4 years. But the bigger projects tend to be the 4% projects. And in general, most, I've had this discussion many times. In general, most developers are not able to figure out how to make those projects work here.
Sure.
And so something like a bond initiative, I think, would make a huge difference. And that's really what I was interested in trying to explore is that something that you guys would be willing to work with us on and try to figure out if that's something that we can move forward?
Yeah, and it's been brought up at the at our commission, and again, it was the task of the working group. And we made it a working group of community workforce development, not to be untransparent, but it helps us with quorum and open meeting laws. We're still going to post and do everything, but coordinating people on tight timeline. But it's there. The commission has been tasked to come up with funding options. To recommend ultimately to the Board of Supervisors. So Ann, I believe is going to be speaking at our commission next, so I think it's absolutely doable and something that we should do, and again, recommending the subcommission or joint subgroup. It's just keep it manageable,
Yeah.
on really I think the priorities that I've heard, again, it is to ensure that we're we have a broad spectrum of solutions, right? Oh God, I'm blanking on the term, but
Plethora?
plethora, excuse me, but a housing trust fund is a great solution, but is it the total solution, right? I started my career in homelessness. I've worked in I do all sorts of crazy stuff. But that is it solving the total spectrum of the issue from homelessness to affordability. So that's at least the direction of our subgroup is to diversify funding sources and strategies, right? To ensure that everything is covered. That sounds also lofty and it's in its own. But also, again, to look at, it doesn't control, but could inform how we spend other federal funds, right? So again, it appears that another problem is, that there is money in the community from the feds, not a lot, obviously, and there are ways to raise local funds, but we can't live on federal law, but coordinating it so that we have a cohesive strategy that has an end goal that everybody sort of agrees to, right? Instead of which I think we're very well primed for. The things that other communities, what I talk to colleagues around the country is, cities and counties don't often get along as well as we do. It's we don't want to compete with the city. We want to partner with the city. We have a great relationship. Even when we hire, we add each other to our hiring panels. It's a very close relationship. So, and the nature of our commission was to be regional. Hence, there are 4 members from the city who are on our panel. So, I would say yes. The idea of exploring bonding, other strategies, everything in the kitchen sink. I believe they are open to, and it's perhaps the finer details that are on me of timing, of their strategic plan. Does it make sense to do this meeting first and then, but again, those are details. But I believe I can safely, and I wish Mark was here, because he could tell me if I want to get a blindfold and a cigarette for saying this, that yes, but the recommendation again, just a friendly recommendation, just out of efficiency, that it be, a subgroup meeting together,
All right, well, maybe let's trade information. I don't know that we need to work through the logistics right here with everybody on how to work together, but maybe we could talk offline,
Absolutely.
two of us, and try to come up with a plan.
Absolutely, and I was remiss to mention that Anne and the folks at the city, we've also started the conversation of, how do we collaborate at a staff level and a board level as well. So, it's again, I'm an annoying optimist, or just an optimist, that I think things are aligning. I think momentum is building early. So, I can't speak for the county as a whole or for the commission. But there is, I don't see any issues. In fact, it's low-hanging fruit, and we'd be remiss not to work together to find a solution. So,
Okay, well,
I agree that, we take it offline and figure out a way, perhaps it's, well, we can work out the details of the details, or, it's,
Sure.
All
right, well, I sent you a message, chat with my information.
Okay.
Marianne, did you have something?
Oh, I was just gonna ask Dan, because he had said he was gonna meet with city staff about this, and so he answered that. And also, we know the mayor is interested in this.
Yeah, and the from the Board of Supervisors, the direction, has been strategic. They want strategic planning, so I interpret that, again, this is me interpretation, of not just money, right? Money, but how to do it in a way that is cross-sectional, collaborative, and holistic, and leverage also, that we bring things together. I mean, the city and the county, have the ability to shift priorities on a lot of local spending. So, could bond plus other strategies for X, Y, and Z, so very good. And I will, yep, I have your info. So yeah, we'll set something up and give you a call and see how we can get it going.
Perfect. Anybody else have any other comments or questions for Dan before we let him go?
Thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut
Go
you off.
ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say that as appreciate you all as volunteers, spending time to come up with solutions. It's a big time commitment. It's hard. How affordable housing is complex. Homelessness is complex. Of all the things that we work on, it's difficult. So thank you. I just want to express my thanks to you all for stepping up to join this commission and work together to again, help the people of Tucson and make it a better place and more affordable place. So thank you all, and thank you for the invitation. And again, very much so looking forward to increased collaborations on all fronts. As a department, community and workforce development, our saying is we don't compete, we collaborate. We don't want to redo something that somebody else is doing, we want to enhance, we want to partner. So I was very, very happy and excited to be here. So again, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a P-CHIP update. Selena, you
Yeah.
wanna?
Okay, I'm gonna just share my screen. 1 second. Okay, can you all see a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just here to provide a brief update on where we are on the P-CHIP, or People, Communities, and Homes Investment Plan. I think last time I came and talked to you all, we were right in the middle of our focus groups and our community stakeholder engagement. So far we've kind of finished our data and lit review. We finished our community and stakeholder engagement. And then at the beginning of July, we were going through kind of the data processing and going through all that engagement, kind of what we received, and trying to formulate into more of a cohesive, some recommendations. So right now we're just finishing up kind of the internal drafting of the plan. But what I'm here to talk and share with you today is just some of the takeaways that we got from our community and stakeholder engagement. At your next commission meeting, we'll have the final draft of the plan. I'll discuss a little later when we'll have a public draft that stakeholders in the community can review and provide feedback. That should be around mid-August when we'll have that available. So just a brief recap of the survey. So our survey for our community closed on May 31st, and we distributed the physical postcards to take the survey at our kickoff events, different city and community events. We dropped them at recreation centers and libraries and other departments' public-facing counters, and advertised it on social media, press releases, newsletters, and more. We had 479 responses from community members for the survey. We won't be going through all of the survey results, but kind of the first few questions and kind of those key takeaways. So I think I showed this briefly last time. So one of the first questions we asked was to the community was, what do you see as Tucson's biggest challenges in creating equitable access to opportunity for all of its residents? And each respondent had 10 votes that they could use across these different challenges. They could put all the votes in one challenge, or they could spread them out. They also had an opportunity to write in their own challenges if they didn't see something that didn't fit into these categories. So as you can see, number one by far is the lack of affordable or attainable housing options, followed by homelessness, crime and safety, and poverty. Also kind of rounding out those top 8 were extreme heat, drought, and other environmental impacts, lack of safe, connected, and convenient transit options, and equitable access to services and community resources, and barriers to good health. Some other challenges that respondents put were poor infrastructure, the drug and fentanyl crisis, over-policing, food insecurity and grocery access, and some others. And then we had an open response box for community members to write, what should the city of Tucson fund to address these challenges? So I broke them up into different themes that kind of emerged, and some of the top 3 solutions that kind of came out for these different solutions. So under housing development, respondents asked for more affordable housing, including rentals and homeownership, more housing opportunities in general, and to diversify housing stock, more infill and density, building more housing across all levels. Public housing or subsidized housing, more housing choice vouchers, more public housing maintenance, and more funding for public or city housing development. We also got quite a number of responses about transportation and public transit access, asking for public transit prioritization, funding, and expansion. Under community development investment, more funding of grassroots organizations doing a lot of the work on those challenges already. Not going to read through all of these, but yeah, other themes that kind of appeared were about public assistance and social services, housing programs and services, kind of around homeowner assistance, down payment assistance, and then also about legal and eviction protections for tenants and tenant education. And then also we had some things that came about education and youth. And I can provide a copy of this PowerPoint to Neto or Rachel to send around to all the commission members, so you also have this if you want to go through it more closely. Some other themes that appeared were about health services and more funding for mental health, substance abuse and drug treatment services, for homelessness, more emergency homeless shelters, homeless prevention and mitigation, homeless and outreach services. We had quite a number of people talking about rent control or rent caps at the state level, and advocating for that. We had some more things that come up more under the environmental themes, public spaces and neighborhood infrastructure, some more about crime and safety, quite a bit also about zoning code, zoning reform, advocating for inclusionary zoning at the state level, and then a lot about job assistance services, trying to bring in more stable, high income jobs for our community. One other question we had on the survey that I wanted to highlight was where respondents were asked, have any of the following made it difficult for you to find housing? Please select all that apply. Again, by far, high rent and home prices was the #1 issue that made it difficult for individuals to find housing, followed by poor housing quality, housing that's not close to work or school, or public transportation is not available or is limited or unreliable near the homes that they want. And then the other thing that we did throughout June was we held 12 focus groups, and I think a number of the commissioners were part of these focus groups. So this is just highlighting kind of the top challenges and needs that came out of the different focus groups. So we hosted 2 focus groups for folks with lived experience with homelessness, one with Southside Presbyterian Church's Homeless Work Program, and one with TPCH's Lived Experience Council. And kind of more discussion there was about what are the needs for homeless individuals or the unsheltered, and kind of those were the top things that came up were just employment services, storage solutions, basic necessities, shelter and housing, pet assistance, transportation access. For our focus group on services for youth and young adults, kind of the top things were difficulty of youth finding livable wage jobs, lack of resources for mental health or family support. With our affordable housing developers, zoning and land issues came up quite at the top, just regulations around code, and also just the financial and funding challenges that come around with affordable housing development. And I'll let you guys can read it kind of as it is, but we also had a few on community safety, on economic mobility. We had an internal focus group with HCD staff. We had one about housing justice and how to achieve that. One focusing on housing services and programs, older adults, persons with disability, and homelessness. So what we're doing with all of that right now is we're trying to take all of that information, as well as the information we gathered from our data and lit review, and come up with priorities and goals for the PCHIP, kind of our HCD strategic plan, and also for our PCHIP grant making processes. We will have our internal review and revisions of the draft kind of this first half of August. And then what I mentioned before, the community and stakeholder review of the draft, we will have that out, we're hoping by August 19th, and have that released for about 2 weeks. So we can do revisions and change anything that we need to change, so we can have a final draft in September, so we can bring that to mayor and council in October for adoption. And that's all I had for you today, just kind of an informational update to keep you guys updated on where we are, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Lena. Any questions or comments? So Lena, I've got one thing. The feedback is going to be in August. Can you make sure that the different sessions or feedback gets shared with the commissioner, so we've got the opportunity to
Yes.
get involved in that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we're gonna plan to send out that draft to all the commissioners so they have time to review and provide feedback for us.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much. Next agenda item is the HCD updates. And Allison, you're going to do that?
Yep, I'm here. I think we can be pretty short today, but just in terms of updates, we have several things going on. PCHIP is a big one, so thank you, Lena, for that update. Another one is, so we've talked kind of briefly about the South 10th Avenue development that HCD is in the very initial stages of working on. So just in terms of updates there, we are kind of coordinating a more private listening session with that the surrounding kind of neighbors that have expressed some concerns. And then as a more kind of public facing meeting, we are coordinating a kind of environmental meeting in September. I believe it's September 25th. Rachel, is it at 5:30?
It's at 5:30 or 6.
Okay, at the Santa Rosa Center. And we can send out invites to folks. So the idea of this meeting will actually have our environmental services department there, folks from the county to kind of talk through the findings from the environmental studies that we've done, kind of in advance of. So one of the funding sources that the city has for this site is some state funding for infrastructure improvements for the site. These are kind of like pre-development work, things like sidewalks, wash maintenance, utilities. And so we are planning on kind of starting that infrastructure work this fall. But that's pre kind of design. We are still planning on going out for a full kind of developer RFP to select someone to help us develop this whole site. But the kind of infrastructure pieces we'll be looking to move forward with sooner rather than later. And then the second thing, we have a housing commission, public housing PHA commission meeting on August 20th. As you might remember, that's our mayor and council plus a public housing or HCV resident. So that's held during the regular mayor and council meetings. Our meeting coming up on August 20th is we will touch on our single family homes plan for the PHA owned single family homes. I think some of you kind of sat on a working group to help identify priorities for that. So we'll be giving an update to the commissioners on August 20th. So encourage you to tune in. And then on CEHD facilitators, just kind of wanted to give an update there, right? Each subcommittee has an HCD staff that's kind of the main liaison and subject matter expert. And so that remains Sarah Megason, and for the affordable housing subcommittee, and Lena Perrell for the equitable strategies. It will, at least for the time being, for housing first will be Elaine McPherson. So Austin Puka moved on from HCD and very excited for her. And so Elaine is the project supervisor with the Continuum of Care lead team. So she'll be attending those meetings. That was this week, right? So if you have any questions there, feel free to let me know. And then we also, to just try to balance staff load, we're actually having Rachel Hutchinson kind of take over the coordination of the full commission meeting. So hi, Rachel, you guys know her already, but she'll kind of be the main point of contact in coordinating the full commission meetings. So you'll be getting emails from her on, with agenda packets and things like that. She's also our website guru and communications person. So she's going to be kind of looking at how to make that website easier to navigate and everything like that. So I think those are my updates, unless folks have questions.
Congratulations, Rachel.
Thank you.
Hey,
Um,
I actually had a quick question. Just looking at the agenda, I saw a bullet point for CEHD facilitators, and I'm not sure if I missed that part.
That was also a misinterpretation of those. That bullet point. Also was touching on the liaisons and realized, yes, I wanted to give an update on hiring kind of the facilitation. So right, like we've talked about, have been going through, have an open procurement process for facilitation. And Southwest Decision Resources has been going through that process. And I believe that we recently reviewed those. So we're advancing through the procurement process to get Southwest Decision Resources involved.
Any other questions for Allison? I was gonna ask Corin to just give her quick update too as part of this.
Sure, happy to give a quick update from Planning and Development Services. One thing I wanted to mention to the commission is a status update on our corridor redevelopment tools, which I provided an overview on May or June. I don't remember, but a meeting 2 or 3 months ago. And we are holding some community meetings on this next week. I'll actually put in the chat a link to those dates, but it's next Tuesday, August 6th in the evening, an in-person meeting at the Sentinel Building. And a virtual meeting next Thursday at 11:30. Again, I'll put those in the chat. So we've continued to develop the corridor redevelopment tools that I presented on. And so this will include a proposal for some zoning changes to facilitate more housing development on our corridors, housing of all kinds, including some incentives for affordable housing. So we'll be presenting an overview of kind of a framework for this proposal and really hoping to get a lot of feedback from the community next week. Based on that feedback, then we will draft a draft code update. And so there will be another round of meetings in September to provide feedback on that. And then, of course, it would go through review by our planning commission and mayor and council before adoption. So hope to see many of you at the meetings next week. Happy to answer any questions.
Marianne?
Could you give me the date and time and place for that meeting again, please?
Yes, there's an in-person meeting next Tuesday, August 6th at 5:30. 5:30 at the Sentinel Building. And then there's a virtual meeting. They're identical, same content, but just an in-person and a virtual option. The virtual meeting's next Thursday, August 8th. At 11:30, and I'm gonna put that in the chat so all of you guys have that information.
So you'll put the virtual calendar in there or link?
Yeah, so here's a link to a page with an overview of the meetings, and there's a link there to sign up for the Zoom meeting, the virtual meeting. Everybody get that?
Yep.
Great. So yeah, really eager to get input from a variety of different perspectives and especially folks who are involved in affordable housing and housing development to make sure we're on the right track with these tools.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for either Corin or Allison? you have one other
I
thing,
just
Mark?
realized one other quick update I should provide because I see a question in the chat about one of the House bills. I should also mention that we are working on an update to our local zoning code to comply with the recent state legislation around ADUs. So we actually held some community meetings on this last week, got some good input. But basically, we're just updating our zoning code to comply with the new regulations. This will allow 2 ADUs per lot and a third ADU on large sites if one of the ADUs is dedicated to affordable housing. So that is something we're also working on, and we'll be taking that to Planning Commission in a study session later this month. And then there will be a public hearing potentially scheduled by Planning Commission in September. The middle housing bill, which there's just a question in the chat, that there's actually a longer time frame for implementation. We have until January 1st, 2026 to implement that. And there's a little more complexity in the code or in the requirements for the middle housing bill. So that one is on a longer time frame. So more to come on that, and I'll definitely keep the commission updated on how we're addressing that one. But the ADU changes are required to be in place by January 1st, 2025. So that's what we're working on this fall.
All right, great. Any other questions on HCD or development services? Okay, next agenda item is a subcommittee updates. First is the affordable housing. I'll go ahead and give that update. So in the packet, second to the last page, there we have a recommendation we were hoping that we could get the commission to approve. This is a letter that would be sent to the Arizona Department of Housing with feedback on the qualified allocation plan. So basically the feedback is regarding one of the point categories for employment centers. So right now you get up to 5 points if there is an employment center that has at least 250 year-round full-time employees within, I think it's a mile. Is it a mile or a half mile of the site? And what we would like to change that to is basically add some language that says a single location. So it's not a single employer. And the problem is the city of Tucson does not have a lot of employers that have more than 250 full-time employees in one location. So it severely limits the number of available sites that are available that will maximize scoring. So changing it to a single location. So for example, Tucson Mall and Elcon Mall, there's definitely more than 250 full-time employees in the malls, but it's made up of 80 or 100 different employers. And so I think from an affordable housing perspective, just making sure that there's available jobs located close to the housing site is in the spirit of the program. So are there any questions about what this recommendation is and why it's important for Tucson? Does everybody see the letter?
Commissioners, it'll be on page 17 of the packet. That's helpful for folks.
All right, is there any concerns about us sending this letter, I guess? And if not, I'd like to have a motion to approve this. So we can get it finalized.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the letter as drafted. Any comments before we put it to vote? Okay, let's see here. Maggie?
I approve.
Let's see, Wendy? Wendy?
Approve.
Marianne?
Approve.
Serena,
I approve.
Lori,
Approve.
Tisha,
Approve.
and Kenny,
I approve.
and Jay. Sorry, Jay.
Aye, that's okay.
Okay, all right, so the ayes have it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. The only other thing that we really talked about in the affordable housing subcommittee, so we had 2 meetings. The other kind of big thing that was discussed was the impact fee structure. Corin gave a presentation to the subcommittee about the fees, and we're going to continue those discussions. I don't think the development services is not leading the efforts this time around. It's being done by the budgeting office. Isn't that right, Corin? And so when they have a draft, I think they're going to represent that to the Affordable Housing Commission, and we'll talk about making recommendations at that point. So this one is basically trying to get up to speed on what's happened to date and the timing on the new impact fee structure. So is there any questions or comments on affordable housing? Okay. Let's see, you can get back up here to the agenda. So next subcommittee is equitable housing strategies. Jay?
We did not meet in July.
Okay. Did you guys meet in June?
We did.
Okay.
Would you like-
Any-
Yeah, sure. We had a great meeting in June. And one of the things we talked quite a bit about was I was able to meet with Larice Walker, the head of the city's Office of Equity. And she was excited to re-engage with the subcommittee and work with us in kind of however we need. And of course, I was pledged support to her and her office. We've worked with them off and on, but the engagement has lagged a little bit. And one of the things that they're working on, which we have engaged with them about, is measuring equity and using mapping software to show the geographic distribution of opportunity and how equity plays out across the metro area. Larice also was interested in meeting on a regular basis with me to kind of stay on track. So I think that from our perspective, that connection with the Office of Equity is going to be critical for our work going forward, and really supporting the work they're doing and providing input, because one of the issues that we have had is looking at housing equity is such a huge topic, and there's so many pieces to the puzzle. It's hard to kind of figure out what to grab onto and move forward, and have that be coordinated and work with what the city is already doing, because we certainly don't want to be at cross purposes and want to work synergistically with the city, since obviously our time as a subcommittee is limited. So really hoping to get that back on track. Let's see. The other thing that we're doing over the summer is since we decided not to meet in July, we came up with a number of different reading materials to help center equity in our work, and just provide more context for all of us as subcommittee members to continue engage in the discussion around equity, and again, particularly to engage with the Office of Equity. And we finally did change the regular meeting time to coordinate better with Larice's schedule, so she can attend more regularly. So I think that's kind of the main things worth sharing from our meeting in June, unless of course other subcommittee members have anything that they would like to add.
Any comments or questions for Jay?
No.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Housing first, Tisha?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. So the last couple of meetings, we have been requesting speakers, listening to speakers, and also doing some independent research on potential things that we could make as recommendations to the full commission for their consideration of whether or not those recommendations should be moved on to city council and mayor. And so we had 2 speakers on Tuesday, and we had another speaker prior to that. We're still trying to obtain the PowerPoint from the speaker 2 meetings ago. But as you will see, if you go to the website, the presentations for the other 2 speakers are on the next to the agenda as attachments that you all might find interesting. We are going to try to retrieve that other speaker's PowerPoint so we can have it before the next commission meeting. But as a result of what we've learned and the research that we've conducted, we would like to be placed on the agenda for the next meeting to make some recommendations to the full board and potential discussion in hopes that the full commission determines whether or not those should be recommendations that move on.
Okay, that sounds good. Any comments or questions? So Tisha, one of the things you guys had talked about was doing a presentation on sanctioned campgrounds, I think, in our last meeting.
Yeah, so we just had Rachel Milne with the City of Phoenix present at this last meeting on Tuesday, and that presentation is on the website. She talked about a plethora of things that the City of Phoenix has done. One of them involves sanctioned housing. I think the only, sanctioned encampments. I think the only recommendation and presentation we'll be making at the next commission meeting will involve that particular model.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions for Tisha?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, our next meeting is September 5th. It is going to be a hybrid meeting in person. So I believe we're trying to get the Sentinel conference room for that meeting. So everybody please plan an extra 15 or 20 minutes, whatever it's going to take to get downtown. Are there any agenda items that the commissioners would like to see in our next meeting?
The one that we request, Jim, for the commission to be able to address the full, for our subcommittee, Housing First subcommittee, to be able to address the full commissions on what we have found in recommendations.
Okay, do you want a specific agenda for that, or do you just want to do it during your update?
I'll leave that to you.
Okay, let's make a point to talk the week before and we can figure that out depending on how long it's going to take. We want to make sure we get enough time for that.
Sounds good. Our next agenda item for our next meeting, which usually meets the Tuesday before this Thursday meeting, we're going to flesh that out.
Okay. All right, any other agenda items?
I did talk to Dre at the City of Tucson IDA, and she's willing to make a presentation to us about what they're doing, City IDA, and even maybe the county, about specifically the Lighthouse program, their mortgage revenue bond program, which is that. And I had brought up just my questions and my concerns about not enough money being put in there. And so she'll explain, why that is.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. All right, good. Well, just as a heads up, I think the next meeting is going to be my last meeting as the chair. At which point what we talked about is Jay assuming the chair duties in October. So one thing that we will need to do as a commission is identify a new vice chair. So if any of you are interested in that, please think about it and let Jay or me know. And I'm hopeful that we're going to have the facilitators on board for that October meeting as well. So if there is nothing else, we are adjourned, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.